All right, here we go. Oh, let me get some light in here. That wasn't the light. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. I got this book from the free library and it just looks so interesting. So let me know if you guys can hear me or not. I'm going to start reading now. We're going to start at the beginning and it's called Welt, From the Dog's Point of Nose. I hope that this is loud enough. This morning I was awakened by Pump, coming over to the bed and sniffing emphatically at me, millimeters away, her whiskers grazing my lips, to see if I was awake or alive or me. She punctuates her rousing with an exclamatory sneeze directly in my face. I open my eyes and she is gazing at me, smiling, panting a hello. Go look at a dog. Go on, look. Maybe at one lying near you right now, curled around his folded legs on a dog bed, or sprawled on his side on the tile floor, paws flitting through the pasture of a dream. Take a good look, and now forget everything you know about this or any dog. This is, admittedly, a ridiculous exhortation. I don't really expect that you could easily forget even the name or favorite food or unique profile of your dog, let alone everything about him. I think the exercise as analogous to asking a newcomer to meditation, to enter in Satori, the highest state, on the first go. Aim for it and see how far you get. Science, aiming for objectivity, requires that one become aware of prior prejudices and personal perspective. What we'll find in looking at dogs through a scientific lens is that some of what we think we know about dogs is entirely borne out. Other things that appear patently true are, on closer examination, more doubtful than we thought. And by looking at our dogs from another perspective, from the perspective of the dog, we can now see new things that don't naturally occur to those of us encumbered with human brains. So the best way to begin to understand dogs is by forgetting what we think we know. All right. The first thing to forget are anthropomorphisms. We see, talk about, and imagine dogs' behavior from a human biased perspective. That's, excuse me, lost my place. From a human biased perspective, imposing our own emotions and thoughts on these furred creatures. Of course, we'll say, dogs love and desire. Of course, they dream and think. They also know and understand us, feel bored, get jealous, get depressed. What could be a more natural explanation of a dog staring dolefully at you as you leave the house for the day than he is depressed that you're going? The answer is an explanation based on what dogs actually have the capacity to feel, know, and understand. We use these words, these anthropomorphisms, to help us make sense of dogs' behavior. Naturally, we're intrinsically prejudiced towards human experiences, which leads us to understand dogs' experiences only to the extent that they match our own. We remember stories that confirm our descriptions of animals and conveniently forget those that do not. And we do not hesitate to assert facts about apes or dogs or elephants or any other animal without proper evidence. For many of us, our interaction with non-pet animals begins and ends with our staring at them at zoos or watching shows on cable TV. The amount of useful information we can get from this kind of eavesdropping is limited. Such a passive encounter reveals even less than we get from glancing in a neighbor's window as we walk by. At least the neighbor is of our own species. Anthropomorphisms are not inherently odious. They are born of attempts to understand the world, not to subvert it. Our human ancestors would have regularly anthropomorphized in an attempt to explain and predict the behavior of other animals, including those they might want to eat or that might want to eat them. Imagine encountering a strange, bright eyed jaguar at dusk in the forest and looking squarely in his eyes, looking squarely into yours. At that moment, a little meditation on what you might be thinking if you were the jaguar would probably be due and would lead to your hightailing it away from the cat. Humans endured. The attribution was, if not true, at least true enough. Typically, though, we are no longer in the position of needing to imagine the jaguar's desires in time to escape his clutches. Instead, we are bringing animals inside and asking them to become members of our families. For that purpose, anthropomorphisms fail to help us incorporate those animals into our homes and have the smoothest, fullest relationships with them. This is not to say that we're always wrong with our attributions. It might be true that our dog is sad, jealous, inquisitive, depressed, or desiring a peanut butter sandwich for lunch. But we are almost certainly not justified in claiming, say, depression from the evidence before us. The mournful eyes, the loud sigh, our projections on animals are often impoverished or entirely off the mark. We might judge an animal to be happy when we see an upturn of the corners of a mouth, such as a smile. However, that can be misleading. On dolphins, the smile is fixed, a physiological feature, immutable, like the creepily painted face of a clown. Among chimpanzees, a grin is a sign of fear or submission, the furthest thing from happiness. Similarly, a human might raise her eyebrows in surprise, but the eyebrows raising capuchin monkey is not surprised. He is evincing neither skepticism nor alarm. Instead, he is signaling to nearby monkeys that he has friendly designs. By contrast, among baboons, a raised brow can be a deliberate threat. Lesson: be careful which monkey you raise your eyebrows to. The onus is on us to find a way to confirm or refute these claims we make of animals. It may seem a benign slip from sad eyes to depression, but anthropomorphisms often slide from benign to harmful. Some risk the welfare of the animals under consideration. If we're to put a dog on antidepressants based on our interpretation of his eyes, we had better be pretty sure of our interpretation. When we assume we know what is best for an animal, extrapolating from what it's best for us or any person, we may inadvertently be acting at cross purpose with our aims. For instance, in the last few years, there have been considerable to do made about improved welfare for animals raised for food, such as broiler chickens who have access to the outside or have room to roam in their pens. That's true. Though the end result is the same for the chicken, it winds up as someone's dinner. There is a budding interest in the welfare of the animal before they are killed. But do they want to range freely? Conventional wisdom holds that no one, human or not, likes to be pressed up against others. Anecdotes seem to confirm this, given the choice of a subway car jammed with the hot, stressed commuters, and one which hiding a handful of people, which we choose the latter to in a second, heeding the possibility, of course, that there's some other explanation, a particularly smelly person or a glitch in air conditioning that explains this favorable distribution. But the natural behavior of chickens may indicate otherwise. Chickens flock. They don't sally forth on their own. Biologists devised a simple experiment to test the chickens' preferences of where to be. They picked up individual chickens and relocated them randomly within their houses and monitored what the chickens did next. What they found was the most chickens moved closer to the other chickens, not farther away, even when there was open space available. Given the option, given the option of space to spread their wings, they chose the jammed subway car. This is not to say chickens thus like being smushed against other birds in a cage or find it perfectly agreeable. It is inhumane to pin chickens so tightly they cannot move. But is it to say that assuming a resemblance between chicken preferences and our preferences is not the way to incite about what the chicken actually does like? Not coincidentally, these broiler chickens are killed before they reach 6 weeks of age. Domestic chicks are still brooded by their mothers at that age. Deprived of the ability to run under her wings, the broiler chickens run closer to other chickens. Take my raincoat, please. Do our anthropomorphic tendencies ever miss so fabulously with dogs? Without a doubt, they do. Take raincoats. Hi, Yoda the Best. How are you, buddy? So good to see you. All right. Take raincoats. There are some interesting assumptions involved in the creation and purchase of tiny, stylish forearm rain slickers for dogs. Let's put aside the question of whether dogs prefer a bright yellow slicker, a tartan pattern, or a raining cats and dogs motif. Clearly, they prefer the cats and dogs. Many dog owners who dress their dogs in coats have the best of intentions. They have noticed, perhaps, that their dog resists going outside when it rains. It seems reasonable to extrapolate from that observation to the conclusion that he dislikes the rain. He dislikes the rain. What is meant by that? Is it that he must dislike getting the rain on his body, the way many of us do? But is this a sound leap? In this case, there is plenty of seeming evidence from the dog himself. Is he excited and wagging when you get the raincoat out? That seems to support the leap, or instead the conclusion that he realizes that the appearance of the coat predicts a long awaited walk. Does he flee from the coat, curl his tail under his body, duck his head? Undermines the leap, though does not discredit it outright? Does he look bedraggled when wet? Does he shake the water off excitedly? Neither confirmatory nor disconfirming. The dog is being a little opaque. Here, the natural behavior of related wild canines proves the most informative about the dog might think. Without a raincoat, both dogs and wolves have, clearly, their own coats permanently affixed. One coat is enough. When it rains, wolves may seek shelter, but they do not cover themselves with natural materials. That does not argue for the need for or interest in raincoats. And besides being a jacket, the raincoat is also one distinctive thing, a close, even pressing covering of the back, chest, sometimes the head. There are occasions when wolves get pressed upon the back or head. It is when they are being dominated by another wolf or scolded by an older wolf or relative. Dominance often pins subordinates down by the snout. This is called muzzle biting and accounts, perhaps, for why muzzle dogs sometimes seem preternaturally subdued. And a dog who stands over another dog is being dominant, like my Lola. The subordinate dog the subordinate dog in the arrangement would feel the pressure of the dominant animal on his body. The raincoat might well reproduce that feeling. So the principal experience of wearing a coat is not the experience of feeling protected from wetness. Rather, the coat produces the discomforting feeling that someone higher ranking than you is nearby. This interpretation is borne out by most dogs' behavior when getting put into a raincoat. They may freeze in place as they are dominated. You might see the same behavior when a dog resisting a bath suddenly stops struggling when he gets fully sodden or covered with a heavy wet towel. The bejacketing dog may cooperate in going out, but not because he has been shown a coat he likes. It is because he has been subdued, and he will wind up being less wet. But it is we who care about the planning for that, not the dog. That's true. The way around this kind of misstep is to replace our anthropomorphizing instinct with a behavior reading instinct. In most cases, this is simple. We must ask the dog what he wants. You need only know how to translate this answer. Okay, guys, I'm going to say this right now. I'm not going to finish this book. I'm glad that we started, but I just I don't think this is for me or you guys. It was interesting though. Well, sorry that kind of sucked. I love you guys so much, but this book is not at all what I thought. You did? I might read ahead a little bit and come back to it if I feel like it's getting less science based, but it's kind of sciency, and I was kind of hoping for more interesting stuff. But thanks. It was so fun to spend this time with you. You're the best. You're like my new bestie on here. I love spending time with you anyway. Right? More dog, less science. I agree. But I'm going to find something fun to read about dogs. I love you. Have a good afternoon, you guys. Thanks for coming by. I'll see you soon, okay? Pet that Yoda for me. He is freaking adorable. Bye, guys.